You're listening to the Inbound Logistics Podcast with today's guest, Michael Irwin, Chief Information Security Officer and VP of Tech Operations for Odyssey Logistics. AI has real potential in the supply chain industry, but is that potential being fully realized? The challenges and opportunities represented by AI rely on finding the right balance between practical applications and strategic human management of AI tools. How can logistics leaders combat the skepticism and establish trust in AI's potential? Michael Irwin of Odyssey Logistics joins us to share his insights on the continued evolution of AI in the supply chain. Joining us today on the Inbound Logistics Podcast, I have Michael Irwin, Chief Information Security Officer and Vice President of Tech Operations for Odyssey Logistics. Michael, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. Looking forward to our discussion. It's a topic that has a lot of buzz within the industry. So before we get into that, though, Michael, can you do us all a favor and introduce yourself to our audience? Give us a little bit about your background in the industry and what you're currently doing with Odyssey Logistics.
Sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm Michael Irwin. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer and Vice President of Technology Operations at Odyssey. I joined about 2 years ago from a career largely in media in Washington, D.C., where I kind of ran traditional IT operations, built security programs in that sector before shifting this way. So really brought to Odyssey to modernize and improve the security program that exists here and really make Odyssey an industry leader in the technology and security space.
Excellent. All right, so let's get into this whole technology chat here. We're going to talk about AI. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt maybe when AI busts onto the scene, but it's moving from novelty to utility in some sectors. Can you talk to me about how the logistics and supply chain industry's perception of AI has maybe evolved from that initial hype to the current understanding today?
Yeah, you're right. There is a lot of talk about AI right now. I would best describe the perception shift in logistics and supply chain specifically as moving from fantastical to practical, right? We're setting in on the real value-added things that we can do to leverage AI to improve customer experience and our own operations. I mean, it starts looking at where can you add value immediately? What are the practical things that we can do? How can we leverage the skills and experience we already have?
All right. Now, there's a lot of practicality there, but what are some of those primary challenges and opportunities presented by AI for the logistics sector?
Yeah, I mean, I think it boils down to the delicate balance between quality and efficiency, right? We're trying to balance the human-powered positive experience, the industry experience we have with efficiency opportunities that exist. So obviously some opportunities are in the route planning space. We have improved access to data. There are efficiency improvements just by kind of connecting the dots between those data points. With the challenges, we always have human risk. You're using tools that people don't have kind of a long time understanding of. So if there's poor guidance, particularly around the Gen AI or kind of like that co-pilot space, you can get yourself in trouble in that space too. And obviously, I mean, I've said a few times before that I kind of view this as a double-edged sword. With my hat, both in IT operations and cybersecurity, you look at the obvious productivity benefits that exist within an organization, but you really have to match it with the elevated risk when you're dealing with things like phishing emails or you're dealing with other interactions that are using AI in a negative way.
Yeah, let's talk on that bit of negativity and that risk. I talked at the beginning about the fear, uncertainty, and doubt surrounding AI. How can the logistics industry then build trust in AI tech to overcome some of those current skeptical attitudes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with reasonable expectations. I mean, I mentioned a little bit earlier that shifting from fantastical to practical, right? In this case, the industry needs AI to put its money where its mouth is. If organizations view AI as a productivity multiplier, not just a functional replacement, I think it's easier to realize value. You look at it as a tool to enhance the human value that the organization brings, rather than something that will solve all of your problems. I think those reasonable expectations have a lot to offer.
Well, speaking of those tools, are there some specific AI tools out there now that are being used in the logistics and supply chain industry? And what kind of impact are they really having?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the obvious, the things like Gen AI with Copilot. So you look at productivity improvements in that space. You look at development process improvements, so you can build things faster and better with Copilot for GitHub. That kind of stuff is kind of the bread and butter, the obvious points where people are today. But I think when you look at service provisioning of those kind of tools, you look at optimizing load planning, route optimizations, rate planning, things like that we can do a lot more with. I think one of the challenges, though, is that the supply chain industry has a low maturity in general when it comes to technology. I mean, our own research shows that logistics professionals are currently using new applications or insights from AI in the organization, only 25% of logistics professionals. So really under half even, right? It's a pretty small number. I think that legacy technology in logistics as a whole and kind of the speed to adopt new technology is certainly a challenge in this space.
Yeah. What about the supply chain resilience overall? Can AI contribute to improving that whole aspect and mitigating risk from really global disruptions?
So in general, I think AI can help connect the dots of various data points and present opportunities. So having better awareness at speed with supporting data, it allows proactive decision making to avoid disruption or working around a potential issue. In my space, I might call that a compensating control, right? It's something that it comes with it comes with the work. It's going to be there. You're going to have disruptions. You're going to have supply chain issues. But being aware of those problems and being able to then have creative solutions to them is, I think, where AI really comes in. It gives you those data points. It connects the dots in ways that you would not have necessarily done prior to.
All right. Now, one of the dots that I know the industry is trying to connect with AI sustainability, is there a role that AI can play to enhance that sustainability practice within the logistics sector?
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is one of the areas that we at Odyssey are particularly proud of. I mean, I think AI can be leveraged to track and analyze greenhouse gas emissions, provides extra assurance in reporting compliance, and just kind of greater strategic insights into meeting sustainability goals. Obviously, when you look at optimizing routes, right, you can optimize based on different factors, right? Cost, speed, sustainability becomes an avenue that you can start really looking into. And I think if you can find creative ways to make sustainable choices cost effective or at least reasonable in the realm of kind of what normal operating business is, it would really encourage the country as a whole, the world as a whole, to move in that direction, right? You're removing some of the barriers of entry. I mean, Odyssey's has kind of a leading example of this through our project Cloverleaf. And I think you get into the 2 million kilograms of CO2 emissions that were reduced, right? Like that kind of element, there's a lot of real world value behind the opportunities in this space, particularly.
All right, touching on those barriers to entry and going back to that skepticism around AI, what are some of the potential impacts of AI on the workforce in the supply chain industry, and how do companies manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where a lot of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt comes from, right? I mean, you have the Terminator examples of AI kind of taking over the world, but I think the real one is how it affects people's jobs, how it affects their lives. Ultimately, human expertise is crucial to optimizing the benefits of AI, right? The experience of customer experience is human. It's not technology driven. AI is a product. Again, AI is a productivity multiplier. It's not a human replacement in that sense. The experiences of our employees, the time in the industry, combined with the quick access to data and insights, and kind of connecting those dots I had mentioned that AI might bring to us. That allows us to be far more proactive. It allows us to be far better. So I think organizations that look at AI as a functional replacement, I think ultimately will be left behind when companies are really improving their productivity with it, not looking to just lower costs.
Are there ways to effectively combine human expertise and AI then to really maximize those potential benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at tools that support processes that already exist. I mean, you have an industry that's been supporting customers, clients, engaging with carriers for a long time. When you look at the areas that could be improved or the areas that you can maybe get more done with less by leveraging these sort of tools, I think it's a really good balance between the two.
Okay. How can AI then be used to address some of the challenges of say, freight matching and operational efficiency?
Yeah, so when you look at that, freight matching seeks to optimize carrier choices in several ways, right? Route efficiency, load planning, sustainability goals. It can really be used to help rationalize the data that's used for this sort of decision making. So I think when we get into freight matching or we get into operational efficiency, that's where data is king, right? Like you can't make optimized choices if you don't have the full picture. And I think that's where a lot of organizations like Odyssey have those really great data points. Using AI to pull those together will allow us to really make better decisions for our customers.
Okay. Here at Inbound Logistics, we focus on the demand-driven enterprise. How does AI empower that? And can AI help match demand to supply? Can they predict demand and so on? What can AI do for the demand-driven enterprise, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think predictive analytics is a big space that people look into, or at least an area that we think AI is going to have a big place in our area. Again, it's all about the data, right? You've generative AI furthers this visibility by empowering leaders like with models and predictive scenarios that in theory could drive increased preparedness or better profitability. AI could analyze industry trends and help to predict demand. You could look at common indicators of higher or lower demand in kind of past use cases and bubble that up in a way that you wouldn't have normally or you wouldn't have done prior to that. And I think when you look at that, you can even expand upon opportunities in infrastructure efficiency. You look at the ability to scale technology up and down based on that need. So I think when you look at cost centers, when you look at past history, data points relating to things we've seen before in our experience, what AI is really doing is leveraging that data. It's pulling it together and it's helping come up with a conclusion that can be acted upon, right? And I think that's where the real value is for us.
Right. Not long ago, AI seemed to be the future, but look ahead for me. What are some of the key factors that's going to shape the future of AI in logistics, and what steps should industry leaders be taking to prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about the future of AI, you look at there's a core question of feasibility, right? You look at some of the tooling that exists today. I think many of them are being produced or they're being provided in a loss sort of model, right? There is a technology gold rush to understand what we can do, how we can leverage these tools. AI is being added to every product that you're dealing with in some capacity. And I think the future of AI looks at bubbling that down into, again, those practical applications, those saying, we don't need to shoot for the moon. We don't need to replace longstanding productive processes that we've had. We need to supplement and add to it. You look at cloud computing is an example of one where it is leveraging new technologies. It's leveraging opportunities to use technology in a way to be more efficient or provide better service, but you're not reinventing the wheel with how you are the processes, the underlying function that you're providing. And I think if you look at AI in that light and you try to match it with something that will make yourself more productive, it'll maybe allow you to scale in a larger way, maybe without the linear underlying costs that might be required. I think you have a lot of opportunity there. But I think this technology right now is a little bit of a let's see what it can do. And I think there's going to have to be some rationalization of can we really afford as a world kind of the technology that it takes to do these sort of things, and where does that line live? So I think it'll be a bit of a pendulum, right? You're going to swing a bit far one direction, it'll overcorrect and come back the other, and we'll find a sweet spot there with a lot more value, making ourselves a lot more efficient, but in maybe a less scary way than we think right now.
All right, excellent. If our audience wants to find out more information about AI, about Cloverleaf, or about Odyssey Logistics and what you can do for us, where can I send them?
Yeah, so I mean, our website has a lot of information at odysseylogistics.com. And I believe had mentioned providing a couple links following this as well that you can click through.
Excellent. And we will put those links in the show notes. Michael Irwin, thank you so much for your time today. And thanks for quelling some concerns about AI. Best of luck to you and to Odyssey.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Inbound Logistics Magazine is the information leader in supply chain and logistics management. Start your free print and digital subscription today by visiting bit.ly/getil. That's bit.ly/get_IL and stay ahead of the 3PL game.
The Inbound Logistics Podcast is a production of Inbound Logistics Magazine. For the most in-depth information around logistics, transportation, and supply chain practices, get your free print and digital subscription at inboundlogistics.com/subscribe. Connect with us via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for the most current developments in the industry. If you'd like to leave us some feedback or have a topic you'd like to see covered in a future episode, call our Dialog line at 888-878-3247 or leave us an email at podcast@inboundlogistics.com. I'm your host, Jeff Vita. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time here on the Inbound Logistics Podcast.